How did you choose Pina Lake or Pina as a location where there is a lot of pollution, or they could have a lot of health impact?
In Pina, industrial area, there was this whole baby corn that was being grown, and they found very high levels of pesticides there, and a lot of heavy metals.
We call cancer causation as a crime scene. We often
True.
describe like that. You have 10 suspects there. One of them could have done that, or all of them together could have done that.
Yes.
But you can't pinpoint and say this is what happened.
As doctors, you're getting pregnant women eat fish, eat nutritious food.
Exactly.
Then you're also saying fish can cause cancer, can cause genetic problem, can cause mutations. Doctor, the patient is saying, like, what do you want me to do? The endosulfan spraying that happened around Kerala, it was a huge issue.
But is there not a regulation when it comes to industrial extract release, madam?
So what they were doing is they were releasing it between 12 midnight and 4 a.m. With Bhopal, the gas tragedy, of course, it also contaminated the water because they were storing the toxins. Groundwater was getting contaminated. Population of men came down. If the mother was pregnant, a male baby's population came down.
No. Welcome to OncoFlix podcast. Today, our topic of discussion is going to be about water. 90% of our body's composition is made up of water. But what if that water is contaminated? What if it poses health risks and can lead to cancer? And today we are going to dive deep and explore the contamination of water in our daily lives.
When we think of the water that we consume, there are three main forms in which we use. One could be the groundwater, one could be the surface water, what we call as the river or lake water. And the third common thing that we use is bottled or canned water. Each one of this could actually be posing a health risk in its own ways. And today we are going to dive deep into each one of this.
There is also various kinds of pollutants in water, what we see in our daily lives. The commonest ones are the heavy metals like the arsenic, the lead. There is also industrial pollutants, probably some big industries, industrial areas, they can release their, without processing, they can release the pollutants into the water. The chlorinated byproducts can also cause health risks. The last one, and one of the most commonest ones, are the pesticide infested water which is released to rivers and lakes, which can pose a huge health risk to our population.
So today we have with us our expert, Dr. Sylvia Karpagam. Doctor is an MD in community medicine and her interest goes into analyzing a lot of health risks. Doctor has a lot of insights when it comes to surface water contamination. Let's welcome Dr. Sylvia Karpagam for our show today on water and carcinogens.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I want to tell you that this is a very important initiative. Most of us, we feel helpless, what to do. So it's good that people have the information and also, discuss practical ways that we can more than, treat, of course, HCG and there are hospitals, but, prevent these kind of things in the country. So that's, I just want to appreciate.
Thank you so much.
That's very true, ma'am. Of course, when it comes to cancer, we always feel helpless, once the diagnosis comes, but the thinking should go a lot before what is really causing this so that we can do something about it.
And I think prevention also plays a very important role, and it's also about educating the population. It's very easy to say from a doctor's perspective that cancer is, treatable, but now I think it's also preventable. I think we have some kind of educative program wherein people can know what is the reality which is causing cancer, and that is going to be this program all about.
Yeah.
Considering you're public health expert, and working on the water pollution and other causes of pollution and its health hazards. So how did it come to you to do some basic research about the water pollution and its impact on the health?
Yeah, so the thing is, we also look at curative health. It's a very important part of public health. But I think gradually over time, one figures out that there's something what we call the social determinants of health. So basically, you need a health system, you need the hospital, you need right from the primary up to the tertiary level. But you also need those factors which help us to have good health and like prevent disease, like what you're saying. And so, we can talk about sanitation, we talk about nutrition, we talk about education, we talk about occupation, livelihoods, all of those also affect our health. But like in the context of water, it actually influences all the other things. So, for instance, if you look at like you said, it's 90% of our body, but it's also 90% of it affects the other things in our life. For
Totally.
example, if you're eating food, and if you're just talking about food, the water you drink, if it's contaminated, of course, that's one risk. If it's not,
Major risk.
Major.
it's not potable water. But then that water can also affect the crops, it can affect the
Exactly.
grains that you eat, the vegetables. I mean, and that's how we kind of got involved in Pina, industrial area. There was this whole baby corn that was being grown, and they found very high levels of pesticides there, and a lot of heavy metals. And then also the fish, you see the
Okay.
fish has contamination like mercury. So on one hand, we are telling, as doctors, you're telling pregnant women eat fish,
Yeah.
eat nutritious food.
Exactly.
Then you're also saying fish can cause cancer, can cause genetic problem, can cause mutations. And of course, the patient is saying, like, what do you want me to do? The fish looks perfectly healthy, but then you're saying it may be contaminated, it may have pesticides. The same with milk. They found traces of herbicide in milk also and livestock. It's like, for example, the endosulfan spraying that happened around Kerala, it was a huge issue, which was a government institution itself, which was spraying aerially for cashew nut plantations. And that community, the whole ecology was contaminated. People had, endosulfan, the water had, the wildlife, butterflies disappeared, honeybees disappeared, and, the children, almost 33% of the children had serious complications. So I think that understanding the importance of it, and the seriousness of it, we really need to, because it's almost invisible.
Correct.
And it's
Totally
very
agree.
difficult to make the connections.
Yeah.
uh, like for example, with water and hepatitis, you know that when hepatitis, an endemic or an outbreak happen, hepatitis A or cholera or typhoid, you know that there's some organic material, there's biological bacteria or virus or whatever is there in the water, like with polio. But with these chemicals, first of all, everyone may not get the disease,
Correct.
and then it may it will not happen immediately. It might happen to a child, intergeneration.
So we can always have an association, but we cannot conclusively say that
Exactly.
there is an absolute risk.
Exactly. So, for example, with Bhopal, the gas tragedy, of course, it also contaminated the water because they were storing the toxins. Groundwater was getting contaminated. People are fighting for years and years to just get compensation, to just get people to say, yes, you have been poisoned.
Okay.
And so, on the one hand, you're watching a whole family disrupt, you're struggling with healthcare, and then you're also trying to prove that.
This is very true. In fact, this is the reason why, we call cancer causation as a crime scene. We often
True.
describe like that. You have 10 suspects there. One of them could have done that, or all of them together could have done that. But you can't pinpoint and say this is what happened. They were all there. That is what you know.
So it's multifactorial. I think cancer itself is multifactorial, but obviously repeated inflammation, repeated damage can always trigger a mutation, and that can lead to cancer, or even, like, for example, water contaminants can also cause endocrine dysfunction. As you said, probably it could impact pregnancy. We see a lot of infertility as well in the present environment. So I think there is an association, but we cannot pinpoint and say, okay, fine, this is an absolute factor which could lead to cancer.
Yeah, when we talk of that, another interesting aspect is that even if when we see the world map and if you place the common cancers that happen in each area, somewhere it tells us about the etiology also. When we talk of, cancer being a damage and repair disorder, Wherever you find a certain damage causing element to be up, you find cancers related to that happening in that area. For example, in a population where probably, today we had this discussion earlier that a certain pesticides that we used before has been banned today, but the exposure has already happened. We may see a little bit of increase of certain kinds of leukemias or lymphomas in that population. Somewhere indirectly, it correlates that this exposure could have led to that.
Correct.
So it is all that causal relationship, although you can't pinpoint and say that this is what has done it.
Correct. How did you choose Pina Lake or Pina as a location where, there is a lot of pollution or they could have, a lot of health impact? And was there some kind of a trigger why you chose that place? There could be, 10 other lakes. I mean, most of the lakes are polluted.
Right.
So how did you, choose, or, what made you choose Pina as your, area of interest for research?
I mean, just to add to your previous point, and I think y'all have been emphasizing that, which is really good. It's also how it changes based on the individual, right? It's like whether it's a man, male or female, whether it's whether they're already having some other triggers like they're eating a
Correct.
ultra processed food or they're smoking or where they live. Like you're saying, it can have an additive effect. It can have a it can work with each other to have like kind of a multiplier kind of effect. And with regard to the Pina industrial area, uh, I mean, even before that, we used to work in this place called DJ Halli in Bangalore. And then we had like a public hearing because there were a lot of issues there with the Anganwadis and with the health system and the disabilities. So that time, the Women and Child Department officials told us that we give spirulina to the children.
Okay.
And so we were like, why? And they said because
So spirulina is used as an antioxidant.
it's used, they said, because of there's a lot of malnutrition. That was their
Okay.
reason. And they also said that the ad for it says people in NASA have it. People in NASA have spirulina. People are going to space have spirulina. And 1 gram of spirulina is equal to 1 kg of fruits and vegetables.
So spirulina, to be precise, is an algae.
It's an algae. It's like a blue-green algae.
And it has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties.
It's promoted like that. But when at that time when it was being given to children, now see, these are preschool children, these are malnourished children, and you're giving this, it wasn't cleared by the Food Safety Standards Authority of India. And the thing about spirulina is grown around industrial areas.
Okay.
Why? Because it absorbs the heavy metals.
So is it grown in water?
It's grown around
the lakes.
industrial areas. So you have the effluent.
Okay.
You grow spirulina there. So literally they're
Wow.
using like a multi-purpose.
Oh.
So one hand it's absorbing all these heavy metals. So the company is getting its whatever effluent clean through it. And then they're processing it, drying it, packaging it into capsule and giving to children.
But spirulina doesn't have a regulated dose level even for adults. If that being so, with children,
Exactly. So it was unethical, and in fact, we had a jury there, and they said it's don't use children like guinea pigs.
Correct.
You can't just. So what I'm trying to say is that this idea of these things, it was already there.
Yeah.
And then with Pina, what happened is we heard that baby corn is grown. Basically, it's that Bairamangala reservoir, and the water from that was being used, and farmers people who were working with those baby corn were having a lot of burns. So in their skin, there are a lot of burns. Cancer rates were up. In fact, they were saying literally every other person is going for cancer treatment. There was breast cancer, there was esophageal cancer, there was leukemia. Not very formally documented, but there were like almost anecdotal.
Yeah.
And then this organization called A3, they did, they work with the environment. So they found high levels of contamination with heavy metals and non-biodegradable contaminants. And then the industrial area around that. So you have few of them who are registered, a lot who are not registered. Some are home-based, some have small factories. They were directly throwing the effluent into the water. I think the Karnataka State Pollution Control Board had raised it. So what they were doing is they were releasing it between 12 midnight and 4 a.m.
But is there not a regulation when it comes to industrial extract release, madam?
See, a lot of the regulations on paper.
Mhm.
For example, FSSAI, the Food Safety Standards Authority of India, is saying openly and publicly on paper that bottled water is not good. Has it changed anything?
Exactly.
It's absolutely changed nothing. And most of them are very under resourced. So the Pollution Control Board, their mandate and their resources is not matched. In fact, that's the criticism, whether it's like manual scavenging, whether it's monitoring water, whether it's monitoring, the portability of water, these industrial effluents, they don't have the resources, and it's not happening. So if you look at some of these water bodies, they're almost like, they're just discharging sewage. Apartments are discharging sewage, and industries, small scale industries. The large ones you can to some extent monitor, but even they don't follow the protocol very often.
Yes.
Could you say 90% of our water bodies are polluted with respect to rivers and with respect to lakes?
That's what I read, but I wouldn't be surprised.
In fact, even this domestic waste like batteries, cadmium release
Exactly.
is when we're not too sure where exactly the waste is going into, and we
Exactly.
know there has been a lot of concerns that has been raised with respect to proper disposal, and that's where people started trying to segregate green and non-green waste for better disposal methods. But we know by and large, 80 to 90% of the time, it may not happen the way we probably dispose it in a well-established setup.
Yes.
So if that being so, this surface water contamination seems to have the highest level of possible pollutants with industrial extracts, with pesticides, with all these domestic waste, also possibility of dumping inside.
And now it's affecting the groundwater also.
Yes,
That seems
yes,
more dangerous.
yes. So that's exactly what I wanted to ask you. So it may look like groundwater is a possibly better solution to this problem. So how exactly does this turn around happens? Does this pollution affect the groundwater also?
See, like for example, with the Bhopal gas tragedy, which happened in 1985. It was basically an American company, and this huge, overnight
Leak.
tons of the methyl
Methyl.
isocyanate
Correct.
gas was released, and so there was, of course, airborne pollution, which spread widely. But over the years, wherever they've stored the toxic containers, they have found groundwater pollution.
Okay.
And there's no like geography, right? There's no geographic area where you can limit and say,
Correct.
okay, this is a contaminated area. In fact, they found that people living in that area had, I think, about 25% higher risk of cancer if they didn't move.
Mhm.
But those who moved almost even 100 kilometers away had 8% higher risk than
Okay.
the people who are not exposed as babies.
Mhm.
So the men, if you see, the men had higher risk. In fact, the population of men came down. If the mother was pregnant, male babies population came down.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
So that it's actually both are closely related, and even with in Kerala, when the endosulfan aerial spraying happened, it was a groundwater that was
Contaminated.
Contaminated.
Yeah, yeah.
And the other aspect with groundwater contamination is its soil. There
Yeah,
are inert
exactly.
heavy metals already present in the soil as well.
From
Like, for
rocks.
example,
It's
rocks. Okay, it could be lead, it could be arsenic, it could be other heavy
Cadmium.
metals, cadmium as well. Cadmium again. There has been a lot of talk about cadmium, especially in the West, where there are a lot of suits
bad-
which are going against cadmium, against very big companies as well. And I think it's also very important from the regulatory aspect as well to evaluate and probably streamline kind of a regulatory framework to see what is the acceptable limits of the heavy metals. And there are also various aspects to tone down this heavy metals when it comes to household
Yes.
drinking of water as well.
Yeah, in fact, each one of this heavy metal is associated with the different kind of cancer. Lead is associated with something. Arsenic is associated with bladder cancers, and we know cadmium again is associated
Nitrates.
with
Nitrates.
nitrates. Again,
Chlorine
chlorinated
products.
byproduct.
Chlorine
Or
byproducts.
each one of this is associated with 2 or 3 cancers that
Yeah.
it could pose risk to. And what is shocking is that with 90% of our body made of water, each one of us drinking at least 2 to 3 liters of water, how important it is for an individual to know what kind of contaminated water are we drinking with. And we all know this pollution, whether it is air, water, has been on up. Has the regulatory measures been on par with it? Are we updated enough to tackle the pollution risk that we are facing today? The answer is a big no. And the regulation is not only at the level of an industry. For example, even if the industrial extract is going to be strictly regulated, we know there are other sources which are pouring in which could still contaminate. So I think, as Dr. Lohit mentioned, if we have a measure where an individual can measure what amount of heavy metals or what amount of pesticides that their consuming water contains, there is the solution to probably a change. And when we speak of all this coming to canned water, right? So today, if we see any organization or even household, it's very, very common to see a can that is filled with water, which we assume is much better than the water that probably we get out of water and filter. Now, let's discuss about the health risks of that.
I mean, so the plastics per se, there is also so much of
Talk.
there is evidence, but also a lot of things that is unknown. For example, the kind of plastic, the quality of plastic, whether it's kept in the heat.
Eat.
If you have a sports, outside, you're having an event, and then your, children are drinking water from that. Like how much of that plastic has come? There's a lot of talk of the microplastics. How is it affecting your food systems? For example, the normal sewage treatment plant, it cannot eliminate a lot of these. It cannot eliminate microplastics. It cannot eliminate heavy metals. It's not meant for that.
Okay.
So they have something called solid waste. I think there's a certain amount that's allowed, certain amount of E. coli or fecal contamination. Those are the things they monitor.
Mhm.
So at their level also, there's no system of monitoring. And at an individual level, I think I don't know how much people can have all those equipment and all those systems.
Oh, does it? Like, for example, you told about the sewage treatment plant. Is it much more advanced in the West? And do we have to evolve with respect to the technology, or is it like everywhere it is the same?
See, the thing is, a lot of the factories from these countries are shifting to countries like India only because the regulation is so lax.
Mhm.
They get away with a lot more here than they would in some of those other countries. So the idea of make in India shouldn't be, make your own
Mhm.
heavy metals or make your own contaminants.
It's a very important perspective, specifically when we can see that the regulatory aspects may not cover all of it. We can see the health risks it can pose as well.
Yeah.
So, with respect to this plastics also, so the more the exposure to heat, we read that BHPs and
Yeah.
phthalates, for every degree of raise, I read that 3 degree of raise, 300 time increase in what goes into the water. And in fact, after keeping a plastic canned water for some time in sunlight and drinking it, the taste is
It's
very
very-
different.
Yeah, we did try that as well.
Oh, you tried
Yeah,
it?
we did, and
You
then
shouldn't have.
we saw a complete different taste of water itself. It was just a normal plastic bottled water, and then there was a complete change in taste as well, because we wanted to do this experiment before we come and speak to you, and then it was a complete different taste altogether.
And
So
yeah, and people say that food grade plastics are there, probably they start releasing it at a much higher temperature than what you may expect it to release. But there again comes the question, for how long, to what temperature is it
Exactly.
getting released, the consistency of heat.
And even those small bottles, like per unit of water, the amount of plastic that that water is exposed to, and we carry it everywhere. We carry it in the sun, and is it suitable for Indian climates? And you might have one company that's standard, and you have some 100 companies that are imitations. And just because the name sounds the same, you
Correct.
end up taking it.
So
and
does-
even while storing all these big canned waters, we don't know what kind of environments it has been exposed to while
Exactly.
transportation. If it
You
was
throw
a
it around,
Correct.
and it's-
and if it was a sunny day when it got transported, the time it would have got exposed to that high heat environment would have been much higher.
And there's a lot of talk about recycling as well. We don't know
Exactly.
how recycling could probably, like, contaminate the water when you use a recycled plastic. Probably the absorption could be much easier. So I think, do you think the FSSAI also looks into this aspect rather than just the food safety? Does it also look into the packaging aspect where, different varieties of plastics have been used, different qualities of plastics have been used, and we've also read that the quality of plastic is also very, very important to lessen the dissipation of plastics into the water.
I mean, you said that apart from food safety, do they look at these things? But
Yeah.
even food safety, I don't know if they'll, doing as much as, they should be doing. For instance, when this spirulina thing happened, we wrote to them. They didn't respond. It was the Advertising Standards Council of India which responded and said, this is like a false promise that you're saying about, 1 kg and 1 gram. But FSSAI didn't respond. And this thing about plastics is on their guidelines. So I mean, I've not seen. I don't think going by the amount of bottles.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
think it's.
Yeah.
There's not even warnings.
Correct.
Safety in even just on that plastic. If you put safety warnings and say that you should have whatever ISO or you should have something, so people are aware that.
But I think again, there's a lot of research papers which have been coming up on microplastics, but probably the companies could say that, okay, fine, there is only an association. It's again not a risk factor. Again, they could be one of the suspects, but it's not an absolute surety that they're the culprits.
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
That factor is always there for every factor, but you can't deny the fact that the association causes increase in a certain type of cancers as well.
And I think for us, like even us as public health, or y'all as the clinicians, and also communities and people, the prevention is what we should focus on, because
Exactly.
like in Pina, they had an association of people living around the area, and they put pressure.
So these are mostly the residents of that area,
Yeah.
and they were also environmentalists involved as well.
They were like
Mhm.
A3 was it's a
Okay.
it's a group working with environment, but there's also industry association.
Okay.
So the larger industries were trying to. So for example, if you want to treat the effluent, it works out to 7 or 8 rupees per liter of
Okay.
effluent. Even the smaller industries, they release about 25,000 liters
Oh.
per day.
Okay.
So definitely they can't do it. So some of the larger industries got together and try to build those common effluent treatment plants. But even those need regular checks.
Checks.
And we only look at those, pesticides or chemicals or metals which we know,
Yeah, right.
which we are aware of.
Right.
Like,
Correct.
we don't know how they are combining with each other.
Right.
Like hospitals are disposing, things into the sink. People are disposing, like if I painted and paint comes on my hand, I'm going to wash it.
Correct.
Put at your basin.
And I hear about some chemicals for something I want to, I don't know, make my walls beautiful, or I want to make myself beautiful, or whatever it is. Everything goes into the sink
Sink.
finally.
Right.
Exactly.
We also, look at people who are engaged in manual scavenging. They're exposed to every kind of chemical.
Correct.
They have so many lung problems, they have skin problems, they have tuberculosis, they have so many risks. Not even people who are doing manual scavenging, but even just sanitation workers, the kind of toxins that
They're
they are
exposed to.
exposed to. I mean, all of these are like invisible. Like as long as your water visibly, we are so taken up by the visible purity
Contaminants.
of water. But
Mhm.
I think public pressure is very important.
I was also going through another article at the New York Times. So there's been a red flag about the chlorination of water as well.
I know.
So this was in 2025 February. So wherein they have red flag telling that there is 33% risk of cancer causation as well
Yeah.
because of the byproducts
Byproducts, yeah.
released by the dechlorination aspect, and mainly the bisphenol A, which could cause multiple cancers. And that is again, we say dechlorination, we use it in our regular household,
We kill
even
the
for drinking as
bacteria and
well.
then we get
We
the
kill the
cancer.
bacteria, but we don't know what kind of health risks that poses as well.
So, madam, let's talk about this household filters that we use. More often, when you want a filter to be installed, they do certain testing to find out the softness or hardness of the water. And they suggest probably this kind of filter would suit you best based on the hardness of water. But looking at the health threats, it was very interesting to read that we have this reverse osmosis filter or RO filter, what we commonly call, and we have this ultraviolet filtration methods. We have activated carbon filters. Now, each one of this is capable of removing majority of what we are talking as carcinogens. For example, RO filters are very good and effective in filtering heavy metals out. Now, activated carbon and even RO to a certain extent is able to filter out pesticides as well. Thinking of that, do you think that um, getting a filter based upon what pollutant your water has would be a better solution at a household level to this?
I mean, I've heard also that RO removes, all the other even essential minerals. The can also cause certain deficiencies. Not everyone can afford,
Correct.
these filters. I think filtering at source, clearing at source is still the first step. But of course, the piping itself, the pipes, the joints,
Yes.
asbestos, and
Yes, lead also.
lead, exactly.
So I think the best way is like, for example, you go to the US or you go to any European country, you just open the tap, you can just drink water on the pipe.
Yeah.
There could be some lead contamination. There have been studies there, but I think if we get to that level in India, so probably it means that it is real clean water and less amount of
Agreed.
pollution.
Yeah, so source decontamination of water becomes a solution for everybody. But we know a lot of household does use filtration methods. So probably guiding your filtration method based on what could be a contaminant could be a solution for the ones who are using it. Using the filters as well.
Yeah.
Another interesting thought, just I was thinking was olden days, certainly there were no filters and all. Whenever they used to take water from river, running or lake, they always used to let it set.
Sediment.
And the water that they take was from the upper portion and never from the lower portion. If you see from a pot, they would always take the upper portion. Now, thinking of what has happened with respect to evolution, all these canned waters or other waters that we're talking about, we always take the
from
lower
the
portion.
Bottom.
So even if the sediments has to settle, by logic, we all know that it settles to the lower portion. Indirectly, it's just a logic, nothing proven out of it, but could be one of the evolutionary mistakes that we have done.
As in, to avoid biological contaminants, we say, like, don't put your hand in because your hand can have fecal, matter or whatever. You might contaminate the water, which is why they shifted to the taps so that you don't handle the water. But like you're saying, that I guess new problem.
Correct. I think there are multiple filters in the market, but when a person who comes to fit in a filter at your place, you'll just check whether your water is hard or really soft. But I think we will just have to find ways where certain impurities, certain contaminants like there's metals and chlorine, etc., can be completely purified to give us safe water. And we also probably, rather than also sensitizing from the government or from any regulatory body, probably developing some tests at an household level to just evaluate probably one area like Pina could have a different kind of contaminants or different kind of metals, whereas I stay in HSR, so my water could have a different kind of contamination levels or probably different kind of minerals as well, or different kinds of metal contaminants as well. So probably some kind of a test, household test, or a simple test like a weight checking scale at every house. You can just develop probably some kind of a scale to evaluate an household and try to customize if at all you can afford a filter. Otherwise, the best way is probably have a kind of a bowl wherein the sediments can set in and probably the larger minerals can set into the water, and only the crop
I
can be
mean, I
taken.
don't know if you look at it, say, from a public health or a policy perspective. In most instances, we tend to burden individuals, we tend to burden communities and households. But like, I think more importantly, like, for example, we need data on cancers. We don't have the data.
Correct.
There's no mandatory, record. Like, for example, if someone has been exposed as a child and now today they get a cancer, there's no way we can track them.
Track back.
So we need, years and years of data to understand these kind of cancers. We also need public disclosure of the tests they've done. We've sampled, say, Pina, and we found these things, and then look at what are the interventions. It can be changing also. Like today, I might get my household water tested, and there might be a new set of chemicals based on what industries copper
Correct.
around in my water supply area.
Uh,
There's no public thing, and importantly, analysis. There's certain heavy metals in the Pina industrial area. There's rise in cancers over the last 10 years, specifically breast cancer or leukemia. So then you know that these two, you can make some amount of
Yes, yes.
attributable risk. At least you can say there is a higher risk with these kind of things.
Interestingly, cholera was detected
Exactly,
like that.
yeah, exactly.
Even before identifying the
Exactly.
etiology, it was told that it is something that is spreading through water that is
Yeah,
causing
yeah.
this.
Like epidemiology.
Yes, epidemiological studies.
And then it's easy to monitor. Like say, the hospitals say that we're seeing a peak in XYZ cancers. Immediately, then we have to respond, and
Correct.
we need to
We definitely
be
have the
responsive. to it.
population of 1.4 billion where we can attribute the risks.
Yeah.
But do you have the kind of funding capacity with respect to the public health in our system to just relate and create this kind of a environment to attribute the risks of water contamination or a certain kind of pollution into causation of cancer or probably causation of other health hazards?
So if you look at you have a taxpayer's money and you have a budget, would you want to invest it in hospitals where you're treating cancers and super specialty hospital treating complicated cases, terminally ill patients, palliative care, or preventive? I think that's finally the answer is clear that these things have been done. It's possible. We need to invest the resources. Like for example, with FSSAI or with the Pollution Control Board, you have people, trained people who monitor, who put it out, who analyze the data. I think it's doable. And
I think
if
it's a
you,
lot of teamwork as well. It is not just the government, or it's not just the regulatory framework. It is also you know probably media,
exactly,
education to the population, because that's a
and what
good
you're
reach
doing
as
now.
well. And we have social media as well. People like you, people like us, we can
Yes.
always educate people and probably put the word out that there is a certain risk. So you just have to be aware of it, and we also have to give not just the problems, we also have the kind of a position we are in, we also need to give solutions to the population and the public on the whole as well. And probably we can also act as one of kind of media for the government also to modulate whatever policies they have, or whatever regulatory frameworks they have, to strengthen it. And I'm sure they're working on it. They're doing their bit of work, but there is still a lot of scope to make it much robust. And probably in the next 2 decades we will be going into the developed world where water is going to be like free of contaminants, and probably the future generation is going to have a very healthier life. And that is the main
Yeah.
theme of conducting this podcast and educating people about water and its contamination.
In fact, when Madam mentioned about this algae which removes heavy metals, I also read there are a lot of other plants that they can grow in these industrial areas to remove majority of the contaminants that we think about, plant or sewage treatment. So that becomes a solution as long as we don't use
those things, yeah,
those
for
things as a
something else.
product for something else.
Market that also.
So this has been an eye opener to me that yes, this can happen. Something that is used for one thing could actually be productized and used for something else.
Yeah.
And usually when we talk of water, it is always that if I drink this tap water, will I get a throat pain tomorrow? That is the
Correct.
concern that we always have.
Yeah.
And indirectly, it is related to the bacteria and other contaminants it is there. When we started thinking of the amount of carcinogens that would actually come into your
Yeah.
day-to-day water that you drink,
It's
truly
mind-boggling.
I was taken aback. And I think this has been a very informative and educative session from your end. We always focus on the solutions as well. And you can't always expect 100% of the effort to come from the government or from a public perspective. There are certain things which, as an individual, you can do to improve the quality of your life as well, specifically when the threat is so high. And we are so sure that, yes, it is the pollutants that is screwing our health and we are on the disease side. So it's been a very informative talk, and thank you so much for joining
Thank
us,
you so
ma'am.
much, ma'am. Thanks for taking your time. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights on, your research as well as on the water and the contamination to our viewers. Thank you.